You probably think of eels as a sleek, muscular, snake-like fish, maybe with some cool electric abilities. But dive just a mile below the surface and that entire concept isn't just wrong, it's shattered. The deep sea takes this normal fish and subjects it to a level of body horror that is hard to believe. They grow 5, 10 times as long. Their jaws unhinge or disappear completely. They go blind on purpose. Their bodies turn to translucent jelly, and some just start eating each other. Because when you live in eternal darkness under 1,000,000 pounds of pressure, anything goes. Why did evolution force these eels to give up their sleek bodies and famous powers, just to replace them with these nightmare adaptations? And what's actually causing these eels to deform into these things the further down you go? This is the scary biology of deep-sea eels. First, we have to look at the eels not in the deep, like this one. This is the snowflake eel. And as you might have guessed by its name, it's basically the opposite of creepy. They're found in the epipelagic zone, the sunlight zone. And the fact they don't live in deep water is the exact reason why they don't look heinously terrifying and end up looking more like a cool piece of coral. They use their color to blend in, and they hunt. They're a normal fish. Also, I feel obliged to mention this because everyone's going to ask. But the electric eel isn't actually an eel. They're a type of knife fish that just looks like an eel. Some misinformed scientists hundreds of years ago called them eels, and the name just stuck. They're found at the surface level too, but live in freshwater rivers. These guys can be dangerous, but again, not necessarily creepy. But once you head deeper, past 200 meters, you enter the twilight zone, and you'll actually start to see the first eel that's been morphed by the deep. This is where you'll find the conger eel, a much larger, darker, and more aggressive version of shallow water eels. Its body has lost all colorful pigment. And because they're in the twilight zone, its eyes have grown much bigger to capture any small amount of light left. They're oddly muscular too. Snowflake eels, for comparison, weigh about 1 to 2 pounds. Adult conger eels can reach up to 130 pounds. Yeah, they're thick fellas. Conger eels are basically the real-life version of sea serpents. So, why did they end up this way? They evolved for a world where there's just enough light for shadows, but not enough for color. That's why they've lost all pigment and turned pitch black. And since there's still some light, they've developed huge, sensitive eyes to catch even the faintest motion. So what happens to an eel's eyes in a place with zero light? Well, this is what happens when you enter the midnight zone. The eels here start to just not even look like eels and more like deformed worms. This is the Sawtooth Eel, and it can reach up to 6 feet long. Its jaw is lined with long, needle-like teeth that stick out even when its mouth is closed, making it so the eel is forced into a permanent snarl. Its body is pitch black and paper thin. And because food is so rare this deep, it will eat just about anything, including other eels. Snipe eels look like if you took the sawtooth eel and somehow warped its face even more. Their mouths aren't even able to close all the way because of their shape, and its body has been stretched immensely thin. It's creepy, but why are they shaped this way? Their jaws are designed to snipe prey like tiny shrimp as they drift by, hooking them with backward-facing teeth. But at the bottom of the midnight zone is Neosema, an eel so rare that scientists just call it by its scientific name. It was first discovered in 2018, and only a few specimens have ever been found. The strangest part? This eel just looks unfinished. You can literally see its organs through its skin, and it doesn't even have visible eyes. Whatever eyes are left, buried under its skin, are completely vestigial, meaning they don't work anymore and are literally just relics of evolution from ancestors that could once see. You might be wondering how this thing even survives since it's a bright orange flag that can't see anything. And honestly, we don't fully know. But the fact its eyes don't work isn't a disadvantage. Down here, vision is useless. Instead, Neosema has likely evolved to rely on touch and vibration, using its whole body to sense movement in the water. Beneath the midnight zone is the abyssopelagic zone, the abyss. This is the final zone where eels reach their absolute limits. And of all the eels that live in the deep, none are more recognizable or more unsettling than the Gulper Eel. At first glance, it honestly doesn't even look real. Its mouth is so massive that when it opens, it looks like its entire head is about to turn inside out. The jaws can balloon to a size several times larger than the eel's own body, forming a huge, gaping pouch that can swallow prey almost as big as itself. And no, those aren't its nostrils. Those are its eyes. Unlike most deep-sea predators, the gulper eel doesn't chase anything. Instead, it drifts through the darkness and waits, luring smaller fish close with a bioluminescent tip at the end of its long, whip-like tail. A trick it probably stole from the anglerfish. Once something gets close, the eel opens its jaw like a net and gulps everything in one go. So, if its head is just a giant, empty mouth, where does it keep its brain? Well, that's the creepy part. It barely has one. The gulper eel's brain is tiny, about the size of a pea, tucked away deep behind its enormous jaws. Most of its head is just flexible skin, muscle, and empty cavity. But are they actually dangerous to us? Realistically, definitely not. First, you'll never meet one. They live 2,000 to 3,000 meters below the surface. Second, they're not aggressive. Their jaws are big, but not strong. They're built to trap, not to tear. But if you go even deeper, there lives a very close relative. This is the deep-sea swallower, and it's essentially an even more disturbing version of the gulper. Its entire body is basically just a mouth and a stomach. The jaw can open wider than the eel's own body, and its stomach can stretch so much that it can swallow prey larger than itself. When it does, its body inflates like a grotesque balloon. After that, it just hangs motionless for days while it digests. I honestly wish I had more footage to show you guys of these eels swallowing a giant fish whole, but they're simply so mysterious that what's available is just so limited. So, is there anything deeper and creepier than this? Well, sort of. While those two live in the upper abyssal zone, there's one eel that lives deeper, at the very bottom, and could potentially leak into the hadal zone. This is the One-Jaw Eel. This is an eel that literally has, well, you already guessed it. This honestly is one of the strangest eels possible, because what evolutionary advantage would there be to having no upper jaw? It's suspected that this eel eats by using its singular lower jaw like a hook to impale prey that drifts by, and gulps it down in one swallow. Their eyes have been reduced to essentially specks that are completely non-functional. They don't even have functional fins. The fins that are left have merged into their tail to help it hover. Unfortunately, these animals are so unbelievably rare that we know even less about them than we do gulper eels. All we do know is that they're born seemingly missing multiple body parts, and yet haven't gone extinct. The crazy part is, even though we've caught some of these eels, we still barely know what they actually look like alive. That's because you can't just drag a deep-sea animal to the surface and expect it to stay in one piece. These creatures evolved under crushing pressure, literally hundreds of times what we experience at sea level, and their bodies reflect that. Instead of strong bones, most deep-sea eels have gelatinous bodies, soft tissue, and no gas-filled cavities. It works down there, but the second they're pulled up, all that pressure disappears, and the internal balance is destroyed. Organs rupture, eyes collapse, stomachs balloon outwards. Most specimens literally explode on the way up because the gases inside expand so rapidly. They are secrets the deep sea refuses to share, creatures that simply cannot exist in our world. Thanks for watching.